People think ADHD is like a negative thing because it's been diagnosed as a negative thing according to the public school system. In fact, ADHD is the ability it gives you the ability to connect disparate thoughts together. Things that nobody else would ever imagine connecting together, like Korean food and Mexican food, hybrid. You know who came up with that idea? Somebody who was ADHD. No trained, cognitively normal chef would ever think to put kimchi into a burrito. It wouldn't cross through their mind. It takes someone of like exceptional cognitive stretch, like an ADHD person, to be able to make that connection. So if you're literally stepping out of your apartment, like you described, or your house, and you're going down the street wondering to yourself, what can I do today? What can I do to kind of challenge myself today? What can I do to get a rise out of somebody? What can I do to take a risk, win the risk, and get my high, right? And I have no doubt that the reason you were on Wall Street was because you don't see risk as risk. You see risk as fun. You see risk as opportunity.
We could just stop the camera. I'm liking this already. This will just be a private. This is a private consulting session because I don't know why I do certain. I don't know why I do certain things because I give myself a story why I do certain things, and it's like a lukewarm feel good story. It's like, you can't just buy the muscle milk without making a production out of it. Also, anyone who knows me in my private life, I am constantly doing 100 things at the same time. It's like the minute before this podcast, I'm in a meeting with my developers, my project manager for my AI company. It's like, okay, AI Nick is done. Now we're podcast Nick. And then after this, we go back to writing and creating short form tutorials and all this kind of stuff that I know inside and out. But to the outsider, it looks a little crazy.
But to you understand it's normal. Man, I totally understand you. I totally understand what you're saying. I don't know exactly what you do. I don't know how much money you make. I don't know how much your level of success is. But I'm willing to bet that your win rate far exceeds your loss rate. And that's why you keep pushing the envelope. Because as long as you're winning more than you're losing, there's room to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And another thing that's very indicative of the operator mindset, because what you're describing is an operator's mindset, very similar to what our field officers have at CIA. They go out there, they take risks, they're moving 1,000 miles a minute, they're thinking about 12 things at one time because they have to. They're balancing cover, they're balancing operational security, what's their SDR route, who are they meeting with, who's following them, what are they going to talk about, what intel do they need, what's the priority in the country, what's the police status in the country. All of that's going on all the time. And then when they're in front of their target, then they hone in and they do that thing. And as soon as they're done with their target, then boom, they move on to the next thing and it's 100 miles a minute again, right? That mindset is exhausting to the average person. It's exhausting to an introvert. It's exhausting to an analytical thinker. It's far more exhilarating to somebody who just is simply wired for risk-taking and imperfection. I don't know if you would consider yourself a perfectionist or whether you're the kind of person where 85% is good enough. I would venture to say that you're probably 85% is good enough. Let's move on, because there's diminishing returns to perfect the last 15%.
Yeah, I ship products out the door way too early. Way too early. Yeah. I mean, for me, I've also become addicted to, let's get the feedback early so we can make it better. Let's get the feedback today so we could take it back and make it better. And that's my mantra of iteration. It's just like, the quicker I get it out there, the quicker you're going to tell me what parts suck. Cool. No harm, no foul, little egg in my face. And then we're going to go back into the wood shop and we're going to come back and make it, we're going to make it better. We're going to give you what you want eventually.
Right. So I'm understanding where you're coming from. I'm not going to say I relate 100% because it's your life, but I absolutely understand where you're coming from. What I want to do is I want to offer an alternative way of doing the same thing that you're doing, okay. Right? And this is what CIA does a lot of for us. A lot of times when they recruit us and they bring us in, they're finding us because we show certain behavioral characteristics. They don't look at Ivy League schools for the smartest person in foreign area studies. They look in state schools for the person who has a decent GPA, but still also manages to maintain a social life and a professional life and a school life. They're looking for the person who can kind of be 85% in multiple categories, instead of somebody who's like 100% awesome at sports and they have no social life whatsoever because they spend all their time in the gym.
Right.
That person is not as flexible or as resilient as the person who is kind of doing average to above average in multiple categories. So going back to your Walgreens example, where you go in and you get your muscle milk, right? When you go in and you engage that customer attendant, or whatever their right title is, right? The customer specialist. When you go in and you engage him, you're actually not breaking through his public life. He's still his public life. You're talking to him, hey, I want that muscle milk, I got to get that protein. That chuckle that you're getting from him isn't passage into his private life. It's a chip out of his public persona, which his public persona is, of course, I'm just here to, scan things and put things in bags and give you your receipt.
Right, move on.
You still don't know anything about the guy, right? Does he have a girlfriend? Does he live nearby? Is he a college kid in his sophomore year, or his senior year, or did he drop out of college and this is his full-time job? Like, all of that still, that's all private knowledge. That's not public knowledge. So you're still very much living in the public space. You get the chuckle, you get the muscle milk, you get the high five. The way that you know that is because as soon as you walk out the door, within the time it takes for him to index his short-term memories, he's forgotten about you. And the time it takes you to index your short-term memories, for most people, you've forgotten about them. It's because you get these highs all day long. You do this to 7, 12, 15 people a day. You remember how many of them. Probably like 1 or 2 by the end of the day. And within 24 hours, you've forgotten them all because you're on to the next round. So what's happening there is, in CIA terminology, you're spending a lot of resources, a lot of energy, social resources, mental and energetic resources to create momentum that doesn't have a specific positive benefit to you in the outcome. You're getting a dopamine hit, that's nice, but what are you getting that's actually advancing the mission forward? Now, when you start talking about you're using it as a chance to practice your improv, or you're using it as a chance to kind of explore culture, totally valid points. That might be what you're getting out of it. That might be how you're moving the ball forward, turning the dial. So what CIA encourages us to do is just anything you do for the dopamine rush alone, just leave it. Don't waste your resources doing that. Instead, spot or find the target that's worthy of the investment, and then focus your resources on that target.